Hey, good evening, Crime Crunchies. This is your host, Courtney C. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. It is Tuesday, March 17th. Well, it is also St. Patrick's Day, so hopefully you guys are having a great day. I am, again, Courtney C. I am a 27-year veteran in the media, and I'm so happy to be able to bring you Crime Crunchies. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my lives. I like to go live, and I'm going to be covering some stuff tonight. We got some updates on Nancy Guthrie, and I have been keeping a little bit of a secret, so it's not a big deal. But I have a very close source who actually works beside Cameron Guthrie, and Cameron had been taking time off, of course, to be there for and with his sisters around his mother's disappearance, but he is going back to work. He's very private. Let me share the screen here. He's very private, and I'm not going to reveal what he does. I don't think that anyone even knows if Cameron Guthrie is married. But we do know that he is a retired F-16 pilot. Cameron Guthrie, again, is the brother of Savannah Guthrie. And again, I have a very close source who works with Cameron, and I've been asked not to divulge anything, but he is going back to work. And that's really the main thing that I wanted to share, is without revealing anything or his privacy, because I don't have permission to do that. And I don't want to share anything that would upset him or the family, just out of sensitivity. But the good thing is that he is going back to work. And I think that that's the best thing that they could do. So again, who is Cameron Guthrie? He is 61. He is the eldest child of Nancy Guthrie, and Annie is the middle child, and Savannah is the youngest one. Cameron is a retired F-16 fighter pilot who served in the U.S. military for over 20 years. And he took his last flight, goes by Colonel James Cameron Arlo Guthrie, on his final flight. And again, there's not a lot of information about Cameron Guthrie. We don't know if he's even married, but he just shows that he's retired from the military. He's very private. And again, I do have a source that works with him, and I can tell you that he is going back to work, and it shouldn't be a surprise. Hopefully Savannah is able to go back to her job at the Today Show. I'm not sure what Annie and her husband are doing, but I can say that Cameron is going back to work, and I'm happy that he's able to move forward. I really think that getting back into a regular, routine is going to be good for the family. There's nothing that they can do, but, getting back to work is actually very healthy in them trying to, find some semblance of normal in a very unnormal situation. So I can share that. And, anything that I do here that I'm able to share, I absolutely will. But again, I want to be careful and sensitive, because Cameron does not share a lot about himself. So that's the main thing I wanted to share about that. So we've got some updates here with Nancy Guthrie. The FBI is asking the neighbors about additional dates. Now, we know that the FBI has been going around to neighbors and asking them to pull camera footage for January 11th, and then, of course, January 31st and February 2nd. But we have heard that they are asking about January 24th. And let me see if I can find that. course not. All right, well, I will just share because I know that Brian Enton discussed this. Let me go to News Nation now. Let me see if we can find a video of Brian Enton. Let's just watch this video. Let's get through this ad first. But Brian Enton has been doing, Brian Enton is back home in Florida. And I'm glad that he's gone back home. I think that it doesn't feel the same without him on the street. And I'm sure that the media misses him as well, because he's just really he just seems like such a nice guy. But he has gotten some interviews with some neighbors and has gotten information about, what the FBI has been asking for. And this looks like a video about surveillance images, but let's watch it since I've got it pulled up. And we will see if we can learn something new about the dates as well.
Nancy Guthrie. Investigators have reportedly uncovered more images from her home camera captured before her disappearance. And tonight as well, the sheriff is raising real concerns that the kidnapper could potentially strike again, as forensic scientists believe DNA now could hold the keys to this case. Our Brian Enton back for us once again. Tucson, Arizona tonight with the very latest. Brian?
Yeah, hey, Blake, it's day 41, if you can believe it, in the search for Nancy Guthrie. I'm still outside Nancy's house here, and there's been quite a few developments over the last 24 hours. You mentioned it. First of all, reports that the FBI now has images from other cameras on Nancy Guthrie's property. Remember, we first only saw the images in the video from the Google Nest camera right on Nancy's front door. We were wondering, because we knew there were other cameras, one on the side, one in the back near the pool, and we are learning now that the FBI was able to obtain images from those other cameras. But here's the catch. It's not video. It's actually only thumbnail images. So every time motion was detected, apparently a thumbnail image was created, and that is what the FBI has. They don't have the full images or the videos, just the little thumbnails. And we are told that anything around the time frame of when Nancy was abducted is missing, is not there. Which is kind of interesting to think about why that time frame is missing. There's been these questions about, was there like a signal blocker used? Some other neighbors reported internet outage, and apparently her cameras also did not have any images or video right from that time frame when she disappeared, Blake.
It's not video, seems like from a past era. Do we know if the images are clean or clear?
No, and they're just thumbnails, and you know how small thumbnails can be. So, and it apparently doesn't help much because it doesn't have the time around when she was abducted. They do show some people from previous days, which could be helpful. They can go back and look and see who those people are. In fact, they even apparently showed the police when they first showed up on scene. So maybe there'll be some helpful things there, but the fact that it doesn't show anything from right when she was taken is obviously not a good thing.
And Brian, what can you tell me about the DNA?
Yeah, so we're still waiting. The big question here is the DNA inside the house, whether they're going to be able to use it. We know that it was mixed. I actually went to a DNA lab at Arizona State University. It was fascinating learning about how this process worked. And the forensics professor there zeroed in on something that I hadn't thought about. The fact, the suspect had the ski cap on, the balaclava, but the mouth was still uncovered, which is a big deal because that means spit was coming out, which is very, very important for finding DNA. Listen to what she said to me, Blake. The nose, is that a very good thing?
It is a good thing, but knowing where he was at inside the home would be very difficult.
So just because he was in there breathing and spit was coming out,
we wouldn't know.
That doesn't tell us much about, they can't check the whole house.
They can look, but unless he spit a lot, they're not going to see a large quantity, and it's not going to fluoresce.
So it's kind of interesting. The saliva, apparently it's important if there's a large quantity, but just in terms of breathing and a little bit of spit coming out, she was explaining to me that is not always that helpful. But she was hopeful overall about the DNA. Science is improving every single day. And she's hopeful that they will be able to do the genetic genealogy and that may end up breaking the case open, Blake.
All right, awesome. So and that's actually really helpful because I wanted to talk about the DNA because folks are saying that the DNA definitely going to be, people are hopeful it's coming sooner than later, and that would be absolutely amazing. I'm going to type in here, I want to pull up a video. Brian Enton looking at January 24th. I want to see if there's a video of him talking about that, because I think that it's very interesting that they're looking at January 24th. Let's take a look at this. Let me share this. Because that is exactly the week before she was taken. So Nancy was taken, and she went to game night on the 31st of January, and she was actually taken February 1st in the wee hours of the morning. But folks are now, FBI is now asking neighbors if they can check their cameras for January 24th. And I think that they have some information from specific neighbors that had mentioned that they'd seen somebody who just didn't belong in the neighborhood walking through. I mean, it could be a nothing burger, but you know, I think that it's a good idea. Or they may have some information. It could be that they've been looking at cell phone records, and you know, if you think about how cell phone numbers show up when they, you know, pull data from cell towers, it could be that there's a particular cell phone number that's showing up in the morning of February 1st that also showed up January 24th. They're looking for kind of a needle in a haystack, a phone number that just doesn't belong. Okay, they're looking for anything like that for cell phone numbers, but they're also looking for people who just don't belong. And unfortunately, as we've seen over the last 6 or 7 weeks, those yards, even if there are ring cameras or, you know, outward facing cameras, with the desert foliage, it's very hard to see, especially with these houses on, you know, acreage is. So but let's take a look at this and let's see what Brian Enton has to say. He is our hero. So let me scan down. On March 16th, which is yesterday, News Nation's Brian Enton reported on X that neighbors said investigators were asking about surveillance footage from January 11th and January 24th. Requests for surveillance footage by investigators are not new in this case. In early February, people reported authorities had reached out to Ring doorbell camera users located near Nancy's home for footage from specific dates, including one 20 days prior to kidnapping. At the time, investigators requested footage from January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight, as well as footage from January 31st between 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. Probably February 1st is what they're looking at. Those requests came after surveillance footage shared by the FBI showed a masked and armed person at Nancy's front door, and the rest of this we know. You know, Chris Nanos has come out, and he drives me crazy. It's like he talks out of both sides of his mouth. I'm not sure what's going on with this guy, but you know, in the recent interview that we've seen with Chris Nanos, where he's saying, you know, we know why this person was there. We know that it was targeted, but we're not 100% sure why they were there. And it's like, okay, well, if you know it was targeted and you know why they were there, but then in the next breath, you say you're not 100% sure, then how about you just don't say anything at all? I mean, this guy, I think that there was somebody who had reported to Nanos in an interview that the FBI had been going to pawn shops and gun stores with, you know, 40 pictures and 40 names and asking if the pawn store or gun shop had sold anything to any of these people. And when, you know, approached with this information, Nanos basically says, oh no, that's a lie. They were not doing that. And yet they actually, the reporter had earlier on video interviewed one of the store owners, and they talked about this. And we know for a fact that the FBI was canvassing all these pawn shops. So I think that Nanos doesn't know what's going on. And I think he just loves himself. I think he loves being on camera. And, you know, Chris McDonough from the interview room has mentioned several times that the information should be coming from the task force, the people who are actually doing this. And Sheriff Nanos needs to go back and do more administration work. He has no business. He has no business talking. He's just, he doesn't make sense. He says things that just don't make sense. So, hello, Avon, Dale, Mama, 470. Yes, we do miss Brian Enton and JLR's coverage too. They both tried to stay on top of this case. And, you know, I think that they were really the heartbeat of this case, boots on the ground. And, you know, I was worried about that even week 2 or 3. It's like, these guys are not going to be able to stay here forever. And, you know, it just makes me sad because the longer this goes on, eventually people are going to stop asking about the case. And, you know, we really do need to keep it in the limelight. And it's very disappointing to hear even like law enforcement people say this could take 10 years. That really is upsetting to me that people are just accepting that this could take that long. I don't think that in this day and age, it should take 10 years or a year or 2 years with the technology that we have. I mean, in the beginning, we thought that she was kidnapped and could be alive somewhere, you know, albeit injured. So the fact that, you know, it could take a year that's just not cool. So I've got some background noise here. All right, so we're looking at different dates. I wanted to talk about the timeline. Okay, so the timeline is, again, January 31st, and we've got the video of this guy. And, you know, something that I've been thinking about is, you know, everyone's assuming that this guy is making entry into the house in this video, but I have thought since the beginning, and I'm rethinking it again, you know, I'm pretty sure that most people think that there's more than one person, okay? The back door was left open. How do we know? And this guy looks really, really calm. How do we know? I'll just play it while we're watching this. How do we know that they hadn't already been in Nancy's house and they know now that they have to leave? At this point, the car could have been brought around. Okay, they came in a car, they left in a car. We don't know that this isn't after they've been in the house for a while, and he's going out and messing with the camera because he knows that they are going to be taking her out the front door because that's the closest to where the car is. And he now needs to deal with the front door. And you know what? We're assuming that this backpack came stuffed full, but how do we know that he didn't come with an empty backpack and this is full from whatever they took from the house? We're assuming, like the chicken and the egg thing, we're assuming that this is him coming, but this could be them just preparing to leave. And again, looking at the timeline, we know that she came home at 9:50 p.m. and the garage door closes and the doorbell camera disconnects at 1:47 a.m. But this guy could have been in the house since he had been reconning and been there January 11th. Now they're looking at the 24th. We don't know that they weren't in the house for hours waiting for her to go to sleep, or they could have come in at midnight. You know, we've talked about how on those acreages, there's no fences. They could have parked on the street behind, and that, you know, if there's a walkie-talkie, that they could have gone in through the back door. One of the neighbors talked about the security door that is the metal door that she has on the front of the house. And if that was locked, it's really hard to get those open. So I'm not sure that they went in through the door. And Nanos has not said how they got into the house, because people have asked him specifically, how did they get into the house? Nanos has not said anything about that. So he might have information that shows them leaving with Nancy, and there could be a car out here. They're obviously withholding information. We just don't know what they're withholding. And again, we've all assumed that this is the entrance for Walmart Wrangler, and that he came with this big stuffed backpack. But again, this could be after they've already been in the house. He could have come with an empty backpack, and it could be jam filled with whatever he stole from the house. And this could be them just preparing to take her out of the house. And it's sounding more and more like people are thinking that this could have been a targeted abduction. And you know, it could be maybe because she's Savannah's mother, but definitely, you know, this was a way for these guys to make money and to, you know, get a ransom that it just went wrong. So, you know, this could be them leaving and them taking her out the front door into a waiting car. So I definitely wanted to talk about that for sure, because, you know, with like the chicken and the egg thing, this could be them leaving with her for sure. So Chris Nanos, who I think should get the Razzie of the Year award, he has basically ghosted. I don't know if you guys can hear. I have a kid who's unhappy in the background. He's perfectly fine, but I don't know if people can hear him or not. But he's fine. He's just having a conniption right now. So, so Nanos has been approached by Texas EquiSearch, and Twyla was on Duty Ron, and she talked about how they have drones who, even if they got drone footage or pictures of drones, they can drop it into a program called Locate, and they can put in, you know, maybe a color if they know what Nancy was wearing that night, and there's a certain color of her clothing. They can put a color into this program called Locate, and this program can go through in just seconds all of the images from the drones and find even just a tiny speck of color. And EquiSearch is it's actually amazing, because the founder of EquiSearch, his daughter was actually kidnapped and unalived, and that's how he started this. And he has offered for free, and Twyla is the person who was on Duty Ron the other day. They've offered for free, and they've talked with people at Pima County Sheriff about getting drone images. I mean, they can do this state to state. They don't even have to be in Arizona. For free, there's a Dropbox or an FTP site that the sheriffs in Pima County could drop the images from the drone footage that they've already taken, and that's all they need to do is just drop the drone images. And if there's, you know, maybe some information that they could share, if they do know what Nancy was wearing when she left the house, which is very possible that they have that on that camera footage that they are potentially holding back, they could, EquiSearch could dump it into their program called Locate, and they put in, you look for these colors or this item, different keywords. And if the computer software scans every single pixel in those images, it can come back with results and say, okay, here's something that matches the keywords you're looking for. And it can highlight that for Twyla at EquiSearch, and they can look at this image, pull the coordinates, share that with the sheriff department, and say, hey, you guys, there's something here that you might want to go, you know, put eyes on. Here are the coordinates. And then when they're able to get somebody out there, then they will. So I think that this is something that would be really cool. But guess what? Sheriff Nanos nobody's taken them up on it. Apparently EquiSearch is literally on standby, and they're ready to either go to Arizona or accept the files and start doing this work for free, which is amazing considering the amount of time that it would take anybody to search that ground. This really narrows it down and, takes away all of the noise. So far, nothing. And the Cajun Navy, the Cajun Navy is another group that has offered to come in and do a search on the ground for free. They are former law enforcement professionals, retired law enforcement, people who volunteer. They know how to search, and they've offered to bring an entire team in. They're just waiting for, permission. They want to work with law enforcement. But from what I've heard, the sheriff has not given them the time of day, has basically ghosted them, has said, hey, he hasn't even said, hey, he's completely not even answered and said, hey, thank you. I appreciate your offer, but no, thank you. We're good. We don't have the manpower to watch over you, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. It's like they're garbage. And, Twyla made a comment from Texas EquiSearch. She said that Sheriff Nanos could, if he brought in these groups that are offering to do this for free, he could garner some respect back from the community. It really feels like this guy is really more interested in getting his face time than giving out any real information. And Jillian Dean, Nanos knows something and is hiding. Yeah, I absolutely agree that Nanos is hiding something. He knows something, and and that's fine. That's what he's supposed to do. I just don't respect the fact that he gives mixed messages. I don't trust what he does say. He seems like he's uninformed. He's pushed the FBI away so much that the FBI has probably honestly no interest in sharing anything with him at this point. The task force probably knows what's going on, but I don't even know that he's getting information from the task force. The task force should be the ones who are coming out every single day and giving updates, or if there are no updates, giving whatever information they have to give. But the fact that we've got two really good groups that are offering to come in free of charge and help, when, the FBI is, I think the FBI is doing most of, the tech stuff and the canvassing. But I mean, they called off the dogs and, search a couple days in, and they might have information why. And I certainly would not want dogs going out for no reason. It's so hot out there and it's hard on their paws. I would not want that. But I mean, there are people that, they know what they're doing, and they know what they're looking for. It wouldn't cost them anything. And the fact that Nanos has not even given the Cajun Navy the time of day, I mean, that's really disrespectful. I think that says more about his character than anything. I think that's everything you want to know about Nanos is right there. Just like these guys are garbage and not good enough to help them out. So that's very, very disappointing. Yes, Enton and JLR are awesome. I think it doesn't feel the same without them reporting every single day, because that's where we got a lot of our information. But they have to move on at some point. And, I think we all are going to move on at some point, but I mean, I'm not ready yet. There's some little nuggets out there. I really like the idea that there are programs out there that literally can take all those drone pictures, because that's a lot of data. I mean, talk about people looking through videos, just ring camera videos. This is one thing that somebody would not have to sit and do, and has been offered for free by EquiSearch, and no takers, not interested. So really disappointing in that. And again, I think Nano should get a Razzie this year. Absolutely. So, again, going back to the timeline, I just, I think that maybe the motive from everybody is saying is that this definitely could have been a targeted abduction, which is just weird. It did not make any sense to me in the very beginning. Why would somebody want to abduct an 84-year-old? It just did not make any sense. But these people, people are in the criminal world, there's just something not right with them. And it's not going to make sense to somebody who's not nuts, why they would want to do that. But, when we're looking at this timeline, I think we need to start opening up our thoughts to them not entering at 1:47 a.m. I think that we almost need to look at them leaving at 1:47 or preparing to leave at 1:47 a.m. Again, people were confused about why this guy would come in with this full backpack. When you're looking at product images on Amazon, they have backpacks full and round like this to show you the volume that it holds. That's how perfectly round this backpack is. And it's like, what has he got in there that he's coming to the house with that? What's in the backpack? What is he going to do with the items in the backpack? But if we flip this around, the chicken and the egg, what if this is them leaving? What if they came through the back door, and with the walkie-talkie, they've already done whatever they're going to do. His backpack could be filled with loot that they stole, okay? Because we don't know what was stolen. His buddy could be going out the back door to get the car, to bring the car around, because they're going to take Nancy. And because he's very, very calm. Everybody's agreed with that. Very calm. And if he's calm, is that because he's already been there for a while? He's been there for a while. The adrenaline of getting in and whatever has happened in the house, he could have been in there for an hour or two. Get down, Zoshi. And already come up with whatever plan they're going to come up with. And now they're leaving. And it's like, okay, well, let's take her out the front door, because again, a 150-pound woman who's not cooperative, fighting, unconscious, is very difficult to move. And this could have been the best spot to get her out of the house, where a car would be, okay? Taking her around the back door is not going to make sense, because it's further to carry her. And, we already know that there were no drag marks. There's some photo that somebody had pulled up recently where it looked like there could have almost been like a walker trail with wheels. So did she walk out on her own? And he went in to disengage the camera out front, and they didn't have to break into the front door, the security door, because somebody was going to be coming out of the door with Nancy. And I don't know if she walked out with a walker. This is just somebody posting a picture. And again, all of this is speculation. But I have to wonder if he's calm because he's already been in the house for a while. Whatever bad or whatever has gone wrong has already gone wrong, and they've been in there long enough to form a plan. And this is them executing the plan of how they're going to get her out of the house. And honestly, that makes more sense than him coming with this big full backpack. You know, just his temperament, it makes more sense that they're actually leaving. And the walkie-talkie is there with the driver, and the driver is going to be pulling around, and they're going to be taking her out. All right, Jillian says, I wish FBI can actually fully take over case. I agree, but Nanos needs release to FBI. If I'm correct, they do, because they're in charge. Unless they can prove perps took Nancy across state lines, Mexico. This is so sad. It's very sad. And you know what? Everybody, I'm sure everybody knows that they've got these big billboards, and people are sending Brian Enton pictures of the billboards, and the billboards are in, of course, Tucson toward Mexico, but there's also some in Southern California, and there's some in the Houston area that are popping up. So people that have not been paying attention, that don't watch the news, now have the opportunity to see these billboards, and it could be, it could be what they need to break the case. If somebody sees a billboard that hasn't been watching the news, doesn't know that this has even happened, that knows this guy, that's like, oh, wow, I heard so-and-so talking about this old lady. Is this that old lady? I mean, that's all it would take. Think one was front, and when came to back, oh yeah, you think one was in the front and one to the back. Somebody's even mentioned that it looks like he's flashing like sign language when he comes around the corner here, that he's flashing sign language. And they took her through the side. And okay, I feel 3 people involved, driver and perps carried her. It could be absolutely 3. Absolutely could be 3. And I say this every show, the true crime community, we're thinkers. We're thinking about all of this stuff, and we're using critical thinking. We have to, we have to think outside the box in different scenarios. And this is the reason why I'm so, into this case, is because it just doesn't add up. Nothing that would make sense for a typical case like this. It's just not matching anything. And it's a true head scratcher. And I want them to figure this out. And I want to know what happened. Day 47 is when they caught Brian Kohberger, and it's day 45. So, it took 9 months to find Elizabeth Smart. I'm going to hope that the people that are saying it could take a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I'm hoping that they're completely wrong. Everybody is saying this will be solved. It's just, we have to be patient. But, it's obvious pretty much that Nancy has probably passed by now. The first week I was going nuts in my head, because it's like, they need to hurry up, because she could have still been alive, but at this point she probably isn't. But we still need to know what happened. I cannot wait. I'm just hoping every single day. I'm hoping and praying that there is a break in this. I would love nothing more than to come back and actually put some answers, Nanos, something that just popped in my head, day 2 or 3, when he did his, one of 2 press conferences, referred to Nancy as being, taken against her will out of her bed. And then he backtracks it. And Savannah said she was taken from her bed. So I don't know. I agree. I wish that he would hand it over to the FBI. If they can show that she was taken across state lines, then the FBI can take it. Absolutely. Nanos is he's a clown. He's a bozo. And I always come into these shows and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I really believe that the Pima Sheriff's Department, the people that are actually doing the hard work, I have complete faith in them. I just feel like this guy is a politician, and I think that he has caused more harm than anything. There's been so much speculation about if the family was involved. Well, if anybody thought the family was involved, It's because Nanos made it sound when he was asked if the family was cleared. He's like, no one's been cleared. The family's not been cleared. And then they've got all the FBI going to the house and going in and taking paper bags out and taking the car and not returning the car. And honestly, all of that whole speculation really was because of bad communication from Nanos. And then the PIO on the case didn't know that the car had been returned to Annie, and that's not their fault. I don't know if it's a he or she, but it's not the PIO's fault that they didn't know that the car had been returned to Annie. It's the internal communication. You know, it's just crazy. It's crazy that the problem with how the story has gone is really because of the sheriff. And I did pull up this article, Nancy Guthrie case latest update, Savannah livid as FBI probes key dates and reviews surveillance images from Arizona home. And this was just updated today. Some of the stuff we've already talked about. I'm not going to go into it, but apparently, no one's really said too much about how Savannah felt about the family being looked at. Let's see. During the investigation, Savannah Guthrie has apparently been infuriated by the allegations that her brother-in-law may have any connection to the disappearance. He is one of the last individuals to visit Nancy following her dinner. There have been some cases in the media in which it was implied that he was under suspicion, a thing the family highly disapproves. Well, I know exactly the very first week, Ashley Banfield came out with that. And I'm not blaming Ashley Banfield. She had a source. And the source said that the brother-in-law was the main suspect, which at the time, he probably genuinely was. Because again, somebody going in and taking an 84-year-old woman, that is going to be typically a family member, okay? It's going to be a family member. The American Idol guy who said that somebody broke in and unalived his wife, why is someone randomly going to go in and unalive a woman at home? Okay, they're just not. This is what happened to Nancy is really, really rare, okay? The husband, the American Idol husband, was arrested, and they have enough proof that he did it. And in this case, it would make total sense that the last person who saw Nancy is the person who is responsible for this. So yes, I do believe that the son-in-law was the main suspect early on, and Ashley Banfield was reporting that. Supposedly Ashley Banfield and Savannah Guthrie were friends and had worked together. I'm not sure how that relationship is now, but hopefully Savannah has to understand that in the beginning, of course, people are going to think that a close family member, especially the last one who had seen Nancy, was going to be a suspect, because that's just how statistically these crimes actually occur. Okay. But I know that there are still some YouTube sites that are still going on and on and on about how the brother-in-law, the son-in-law of Nancy, could be responsible. I think at this point that's irresponsible, because they have been cleared. The car's been returned. I think that it didn't help that the communication from the sheriff's office and Nanos was so bad. I think that he certainly did not help the case. So day 45, latest updates. Again, this, I guess, is the Billboard. And I don't know if it's flashing some additional information. I don't know that this is enough. I feel like they should have some additional images in Houston and Southern California, because if I'm somebody, and let's just say I know the perpetrators, but I haven't been watching the news and I don't know who this lady is, if they were able to give some additional information, like maybe put the picture of the video up of this guy on the billboard. Apparently, people are saying he's bow-legged. There may be a tattoo on his wrist. I think that they need to have at least one other creative where they're showing the front porch Walmart Wrangler guy, because I'm not sure that this billboard, if somebody has heard something or could recognize Walmart Wrangler, I'm not sure that this billboard is going to make them connect the dots. If I have not been following the news and I live in Houston and I see this, I'm going to think that this person lives in Houston and is missing. I'm not going to think, oh, this is Savannah Guthrie's mother in Tucson, Arizona, and this guy hurt her and took her out the front door. I think that they need to have another version of this creative with Walmart Wrangler on the front. So let's see what they say. We know that they do have some new photos from the different cameras, but they're thumbnails, and going back to a potential signal jammer, of course, and what they're saying, we don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly the video did not give any real images during the time of the intrusion. And, you know, some neighbors have talked about how their internet went down during that time. The Ring camera footage is gone from that time. If there was a single signal jammed, then maybe it did affect Nancy's cameras. I was wondering originally, because I had never heard of these signal jammers. And I was wondering originally, okay, if these guys, they don't look sophisticated, they look like, you know, ding dongs. But if these guys are sophisticated, why are they bringing a signal jammer with them? Well, I guess it's so they can turn internet and cameras off. Okay, and that makes sense. That's logical to me. I guess it, and that makes me think that Walmart Wrangler, you know, that this is definitely targeted, and they went in to kidnap her, probably stole some stuff anyway. You know, I mentioned in my last podcast that the FBI had been interviewing people over a few days at El Charro, which is the restaurant where Savannah and her mother and sister had done that Today Show segment. So is this guy linked to anybody there at the restaurant? That could be how he's connected, that he saw them sitting together with the cameras, and is the idea hatched in his brain, wow, these people have money, they've got cameras, I could take this old lady, she's not going to fight me, and I could get some money out of these people. That makes sense to me. Okay, that makes perfect sense. But could Walmart Wrangler be a friend of a home care worker that just happened to manage or share information, not realizing that this guy is a creep and that this was going to happen? That's possible too. I tend to think it could be more like with the restaurant. Somebody, I feel like they got the idea from the restaurant and they took their time. I mean, if January 11th, they have the picture of this guy doing recon in the front, sans backpack, and now they're looking at January 24th. And one of the neighbors said that they saw somebody walking through the neighborhood that didn't look like they lived there or was a regular neighbor. You know, this could be pretty organized. Also, the SATG groups, the South American theft groups, that could fit. If they're this organized, especially with the signal jammer, I guess these theft groups use signal jammers. You know, we've learned so many words. I'm going to do a poll because, you know, who would have thought the signal sniffer, you know, the signal sniffer that they were putting on the helicopter that was going to look for the pacemaker. You know, what happened to the signal sniffer? We've got signal sniffer, signal or Wi-Fi jammer. We've got walkie-talkies here. We've got, all these words that we've used and learned this year. So I don't know. Let's see what we've got. I've heard Guthrie family has passed polygraph. Yes, I've heard that as well. I'm not totally convinced yet. The son-in-law is not involved. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling we need more evidence. And you know what? I agree. Would I be surprised if after this is all said and done that it comes out that they were? No, I wouldn't, because again, that fits. That's the MO. Okay. That makes sense. All right. And again, this is why true crimers are going crazy on this story, is because what we're being told isn't the typical playbook for what should happen. And it would totally make sense. Last one that sees her totally makes sense. And supposedly JLR found those pants and the knee brace back behind the Annie's house in the wash. And I think nobody went and picked them up. I think supposedly they're still there. I mean, that's crazy. So no, I would not be surprised if they came back and they were connected, because again, that makes sense. But I also have to be, responsible, and I don't want to stir up, if that makes sense. Yes, I think that it should be left on the table, but like a corner of the table, on the very edge of the corner of the table, because they pass a polygraph, the car's been done, the car's returned, and they're mourning, and we need to be respectful of that. And if they truly are cleared, we need to be responsible and not stir up crap and make stuff up. I don't want to do that. Okay. Believe me, I'm all about a conspiracy theory. All right. General McCasland, that's a conspiracy theory. I could go down that rabbit hole for sure. I'm probably going to do a show on him with the UFO stuff for sure. But in this case, I just don't want to make it worse, because man, when this whole thing is cleared and or done, and we know what happens and the family isn't involved, I feel really, really bad. I know one of my first podcasts on this story, I went down the path of looking at the bandmate, because I thought that the eyes did match. And apparently that guy has almost had to go into hiding because people have harassed him so much and are still harassing him. And I feel really bad. I feel really bad for him. And I felt bad that I was even a part of, that conversation. Just, if they really are clear, I certainly don't want, I want to give real thoughts. I don't want to be dramatic. So Jillian says they were picked up by someone on Sunday. They don't know if it's individual or CSI. Okay, well, that's good. That's great. That's crazy that they weren't found, or the minute they were, that somebody wasn't out there with their little paper shop and save bags, like in the Karen Reed case, and picked them up immediately. Again, I really have faith in the Pima County Sheriff's Group. It's just Nanos. And Nanos has ruined this for all those guys. There's a person who came out, and before this case, 98% of the LEOs in the Pima County Sheriff Group, 98% said they voted no confidence in Nanos. And that's before this whole thing. And apparently what Nanos had been doing is taking people that have experience, years of experience, and let's just say that these guys pissed Nanos off and went against him. He moved them into punishment positions. Okay, he moved people into punishment positions, and took qualified, experienced people out of jobs where they help train and watch and, massage everything. They were not in their regular slots when this happened. And people expected a disaster to actually occur. They're like, something's going to happen. And, if there were missteps in the beginning, it's because of how Nanos had his department set up. And he literally will punish people who go against him. There's something wrong with him. I think there's just really something wrong with him. And the thing is it's not like it's brilliant kookiness. It's crazy dumb kookiness. Stuff that, just bad. Really bad. I think that any one of us could probably honestly do a better job. And that says a lot. With this case, we all need to keep an open mind. Something drastic can happen anytime that changes. Absolutely. And we do have to keep an open mind. And yeah, so, while the family connection, in my mind, I still have it kind of cordoned off. It's still up here. But at this point, there's nothing to go on. And I do feel like this guy, this Walmart Wrangler dude, he's a bad dude. He's in with bad dudes. It could be obsession. It could be fixation. It could be opportunity. But, at this point, I really feel like the video we see of him is they've already been in the house. They've had plenty of time to realize things went bad and they've calmed down. They now have a plan. Could be 3 people, some guy with the car coming around. There could be 2 in the house. He didn't need to break into the front because they left through the front. They went in through the back. The back door could have been unlocked. And yeah, I really, really, really hope that, the bad press that Nanos is getting, that he does take advantage of the Echo Search and the Cajun Navy to come in and do a search. Honestly, I'm not sure what they'll find. If anything, they might just find scattered remains at this point, but at least it would be an indication of where and what happened. But they have these 2 groups who are amazing and have, retired law enforcement, very skilled, have offered to help. And so far, Nanos is, he's not taking it. All right, let me go through my little thingies here. I just want to make sure that I've talked about everything that I wanted to. If you're just joining me, I have a source, and I've been sitting on this for a while because Cameron Guthrie is very private. There's not a lot of information on Cameron. I couldn't even find any information if he's married. But I have a source, and like I said, I've been sitting on this for a couple weeks. I wasn't sure if he was going to be going back to work, but he is going back to work now. He is at work. I've been asked not to share what it is because he's so private, and my source has asked me not to share. But basically, the main idea is that Cameron has gone back to work, which is really good. I'm hoping that Savannah can get back to work because there's nothing worse than just sitting around and wallowing in all the bad feelings, especially if there's nothing really new and they're not releasing that there's any movement going on, even though we feel like there's movement going on. We hope there's movement going on. There's really not much that they can do. And the best thing, knowing most likely their mother has passed and that she's safe and that she can't be hurt anymore, that the best thing and I'm sure what she would want them to do is to go on and, you know, do their lives, take care of their families until more information comes out. But I'm just glad that Cameron has gone back to work. And again, I hope that Savannah goes back to work, and I hope that the daughter, Annie, does, and the son-in-law is as well. The car guy, I feel, had nothing to do with whatever happened inside for 41 minutes. He was mainly the getaway guy. Yeah, person with laid back demeanor, nonviolent perp. Other two are violent. Absolutely. I absolutely think that that's very possible. Very, very possible. Yep. So anyway, that's pretty much the big update at this point. You know, looking at January 24th, not taking help from EchoSearch. They have, you know, that cool program Locate, where they can take all the drone images that are already there and in another state, run it through the computer and find items if they happen to know what Nancy's clothing looked like. Apparently, the Uber driver who took Nancy to Annie's house has been interviewed, and he had a camera device in his vehicle that recorded everything. A lot of these Uber guys will have cameras so that they can record if something weird happens or a disagreement. They have proof that, you know, on video, and supposedly they have a video of the car ride. I don't think that they need to release that. If anything, it would make me more sad, but it'd be interesting to see what type of clothing she had on. And if that type of clothing, I'm sure she would have changed. She probably had on her nightgown. But if we could find out what she had on, if they know she was taken from her bed against her will and went out that front door, if they do have video or camera footage of what she was wearing, they could share that with EchoSearch and take all of the drone footage that's been captured from anybody that has drone pictures, pop it in this software, and tell it to look for a color or an object or an item or a keyword. And the computer will go through and it will look, you know, check every single pixel for that color. And Twyla gave this example. She was on duty, Ron. She gave an example that she had a drone images, and she asked it to look for color blue. And one of the images popped up with this big blue circle, and apparently there was a Bud Light box, a beer can box in the foliage of the ground that had a bit of blue left on the corner. And so this software, from just a drone picture, was able to find a tiny a color of blue, and it's something the naked eye probably would not have been able to detect. And it was able to highlight that for her. And she's then able to go in and give coordinates and say, you know, I don't know what this is. I can't really tell, but it's this color. It looks like this object. You might want to go and get eyes on and walk in and take a look and just make sure that it isn't something that is important. So again, we're no takers. No takers for that. No thanks. We don't need it. I know you're going to do it for free, but no thanks. And it's just, it's wacky, guys. It's wacky. So that's pretty much it for my list. I'm going to stay on this. You know, I try to do something live every other day. It's been every couple days now, just waiting to get more, you know, content to share for updates. But I am going to stay on this, and I know Brian Enton will be back doing more interviews. He says he's not giving up. He does care about Nancy. He wants her to be found as well. I am going to be at CrimeCon at the end of May in Las Vegas. I hope that I get to meet anybody who's going to be there. If you're going to be at CrimeCon, please let me know. I would love to get together and meet any of you guys, my little crime crunchies. I do have new memberships available. I am a new channel. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. And please subscribe, like, comment, share, turn on the notification, all that rigmarole that you know we appreciate so much. Absolutely. And I will be back very soon. Again, I'm Courtney C. I'm a 27-year veteran in the media, and I'm going to catch you guys on the flip side. Take care and have a great day. See you soon.